Oh hey, sorry, you caught me listening to some Spotify while using my Spotify coding agent harness. Yeah, Spotify made a coding agent harness, and it's actually not that bad. It's called Xirp, and it lets you manage your Claude, Codex and Gemini agents all in one place with a nice UI, and it was built to help the over 1,300 Spotify engineers manage their sessions and their projects. I tried it out so you don't have to, and spoiler alert, I don't actually hate it, but I don't think you'll use it. So Xirp is what's known as an agentic development environment. It doesn't replace Claude Code, Codex, or Gemini, it's just a place that you can manage those sessions. You probably know what I mean already if you've used something like CMux, Conductor, or T3 Code. The big difference with this one, though, is to get it set up, you need to sign up with a Spotify technology account, which is not your Spotify music account. This is a completely separate thing, and to be honest with you, minus points already for needing an account. Lucky for you, though, I signed up so you don't have to, and I think that's definitely worth a subscribe. Once you are logged in, though, this is the main homepage of Xirp, and to be honest, I don't really think you'll see this or use it much. It's just an input box for your prompt, and you can select the project to send that prompt to. I've set up 2 of mine with Xirp already, or you can go ahead and add a new project as well. Besides that, there's nothing too special on this page, and the same goes for the All Projects page. This is just a list of the projects that you've set up in Xirp, with some details like the active sessions and total sessions, and again, you can start a new project in here as well. Where things start to get a little more interesting is we click inside of one of these projects and we're taken to the project overview page. Now, I'll be coming back to the features on here, so I don't actually think this is the interesting part of Xirp, but what I do think is interesting is the sessions. You can see down here that I have 6 active sessions, one of them actually just finished some work, and the rest of them are idle. If I click into one of these, like the one that just finished, this is when we're taken to the sessions view. This is basically just Tmux with a nice UI. So you can see our session is open here, and it's just a normal instance of Claude Code running inside of a terminal. So it doesn't replace any of these tools, it's just managing them. And on the sidebar over here, I can click between all of the sessions that I have active on this project, as well as all of my other projects too. So this is the place that I'm going to be managing all of them. At the moment though, this view is requiring me to work one session at a time, so I have to click the session in the sidebar to go to a new one. So if I wanted to see multiple of them at the same time, we can click the grid button up here and we're taken to a grid view. If I then click the add all button, you can see it moves some of my sessions into the grid layout, so I can now manage 4 agents side by side really easily. If you had a bigger monitor, you can even take this further, customizing just how many sessions you want in a grid, and you can also drag these grid handles if you want to adjust how those columns and rows are laid out. It's pretty flexible to whatever layout you like. It also doesn't just have to be an agent session. You can also open up a new terminal in here and then add that to the grid. So you could be working by yourself here in your terminal while watching and managing your other agents. I actually found this pretty easy to use. I mean, it's certainly nothing new. You can achieve this with something like Tmux configs or in something like CMux, but if you're a GUI user, maybe this suits you, and if you don't want to set up all of those other tools, this is a pretty easy way to get started. In fact, I did notice you have to have Tmux installed to actually use Xirp, so it might be a hint of what they're using under the hood. Now, besides just the easy navigation of sessions, there are a few cool and possibly unique features in this session view. The first one is one that I've actually wanted for a long time in a lot of other apps, and that is that you can fork sessions. This will clone the entire session, and all of the context and everything will go with it, but now I can send a different message to each one, as they are completely separate sessions. This is really useful if you want to test things out, but you don't want to lose the context of the thread that you already had. You can actually take this context sharing even further, and this feature is a little bit crazy, but say I asked this Claude Code session to run my review with my sub-agents, but then I realized Claude Code did all of the coding, so maybe I want to use Codex to do the code review. Well, I can actually just switch the agent this session is using midway through. It retains all of the context and all of the chat history, but it simply just migrates it from Claude Code over to Codex, and everything stays working, so I can simply say continue in here, and it works all on Codex like nothing changed. This is definitely a feature that I hadn't seen before in any other app, so let me know if you have, but I must also admit that I don't think I would use this too much. I've gotten pretty used to Matt Pocock's skills, which rely on a lot of documentation and markdown files to describe everything going on in your code base, so I've gotten pretty good at starting a new agent and not needing all of the context of one of my previous threads. Everything is just documented in the code base, so the agent can discover it itself. So this one doesn't really suit my workflow, but it might suit yours better. Another feature that I think is unique to Xirp, or at least I hadn't seen before, is this concept of dependent sessions. If I click on this button here, it will actually start a new child work tree from that work tree I was already working in, and this one will actually be waiting for that first session to finish up. So if I type in the goal that I have here, when the first session finishes, this one will kick off, so I can essentially chain the work that I want to do, or you could actually just get started now and click start now to bypass the waiting. Again, I think this is one of those features that shows how Spotify engineers work, but personally, I don't think I would use this one too much. What I would use though is dependent terminal sessions. So this terminal session is going to be linked to the agent session, which just means that it's open in the same work tree I'm working in the agent, and it's also organized nicely in the sidebar. So that's most of what Xirp has when it comes to managing the agents themselves, but the GUI does also have have some features to help you out with the whole process. Over on the right here, we then have the Git button, so you can open up the Git sidebar and see all of the files that have changed. And if you click on any one of these, it will also show you the diff view, so you can go ahead and review the code that the agents are doing. And the UI here definitely isn't too bad. It's definitely usable, but my only complaint is I really don't like the idea that this is full screen. I kind of like the way that Codex and T3 code do this, where it shows the diffs in the sidebar, as I tend to use it for a quick overview of what the agents are doing, and when I want to do a full review, I'd use something like PRs on GitHub. On this toolbar, there's also a browser button, so you can open up a browser within these sessions here and see what the agent is currently working on, but I must admit I couldn't work out if there was any way for the agent to actually control this browser or even read its console logs, and there's no way for me to get to the developer tools, so I don't think that I would use this. After those two, the rest of the buttons are mostly just helpers, so opening up this project in your terminal or your usual code editor. So that's basically it for the session management view, but I want to quickly go through the project view, as to be honest with you, I don't find this part very helpful. First, on the overview here, you have a prompt input box like we did on the main page, but I find this pretty useless as I'm not able to tag any of my project skills or even reference any project files in here, so unless I'm doing something wrong here, I'd personally just spin up a new agent and prompt it myself. After this, on the overview page, you then have a list of the active sessions that we saw earlier, then some information about your work trees and a log of what's been going on. At the top, we can then switch this to the Git tab. Again, nothing really special here. This is just that Git viewer that we saw earlier, but this time in this tab. And we can also go over to the Files tab, which essentially just opens up an inbuilt editor, which I suppose is pretty good if you want to make small edits, but I would rather use my own code editor if I was making larger changes. Finally, after this, you then also have your Skills tab, which currently isn't working for me. I do actually have skills in this project, but it doesn't seem to pick them up. I don't know if that's because they're sim-linked, but on the Rules tab, we can see what it would probably look like, because here it's picked up my global Claude MD as well as my project one, and we can click in this and see what's inside of it, as well as edit it. As I said, I just don't really find that view very useful. I'd rather open up my own code editor if I wanted to see the Git changes, make any code changes, or change any of my skills. Overall then, I don't hate it. It seems well made, and I didn't really run into any bugs besides that skill one, and I do kind of like some of the session management features. The trouble for me is it's just not really any new features that would make me want to sign up for a Spotify technology account and also to use an app that is closed source. I personally prefer using T3 code, which is open source, and I just find the experience more polished with less clutter, and everything just seems to work well for me, and I'm kind of not someone that actually likes the grid view. I like to see my sessions one by one, kick them off, and then go and do another task. So I think this is more that I'm just not that target market. If you actually look at the announcements they make, they try and really heavily push this with another product that they have. Yes, they have multiple development products. This one is called Portal, and as far as I can tell, it's meant to help you out with extremely large organizations, with multiple things being worked on at once across multiple projects, and they made Xirp tie into that so it can grab all of the relevant context for the project that you're currently working on. So I can see why Spotify built this for their needs, but I can't see why I would use this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're there, subscribe, and as always, see you in the next one.